segment, we want to continue the conversation that we had on Friday regarding the implications for Nigeria of these Trump tariffs that is all over the place. We started that conversation on Friday, and we are continuing today with Professor Nimi Wariboko, the Mueda Professor of Social Ethics in the Boston University in U.S. Prof, you are welcome back to Inside Sources.
Oh, thank you for having me back. I'm really grateful to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. So I wanted us to continue that conversation around, how Nigeria has been managing its own tariffs and how with this Trump new world order, how we might get some opportunities to do things differently, how it is that is a wake-up call. So I remember that you were talking about, the fact that for the most part, the way we manage our tariffs is essentially not in the public interest, that it's often used to protect certain businesses. So that's where I wanted to take it from, Prof, if you may.
Yes, thank you. Because the basis or the point of departure for that statement I made the last time I was here is to say that when we are talking about tariff in Nigeria, do we really understand the tariff within the context of Nigeria, not just some textbook notions of tariff that we have learned in our economic classes? So, and I would like to start from where I stopped to say, look, there are at least 5 major factors or pillars that we need to put in front of us when we are discussing tariffs so that we properly understand it. Number 1 is that tariff in Nigeria, primarily from experience and from my historical analysis, they are not geared to benefit the economy. Tariffs are a feature of state capture. So what the ruling class have done in Nigeria is to protect their own and to rape the whole economy. So tariffs are imposed to create monopoly conditions for some certain individuals who contributed to political parties or who were in cahoot with the military when the military was in power. So we should understand tariff in that sense, that tariffs, as you know, have been used to create protected monopoly so that certain individuals can make money. Certain people in Nigeria who parade themselves as billionaires, who parade themselves as great entrepreneurs, and sometimes the press is celebrating them. Actually, they are not entrepreneurs and they are not capitalists. They are making money behind protected walls. If any one of us has been given the same privilege to make money behind protected tariff monopolistic walls, we also will be millionaires. So I just want to understand that. And the second point
before you go ahead, Prof, let me just make a point and then you take it off from there. Based on what you said, I recall that sometimes in this country, you had a situation where there was a major trade deal that had to be entered to by the country. And based on what happened at that time, the leaders in government and the leaders in business, especially the industrialists and the manufacturers in the country, everybody has agreed that, look, Nigeria should go ahead and enter into this deal. But it turns out that one very important industrialist, went behind the back of everybody to go and convince government leaders, not to go ahead with the deal. And, of course, it caused a bit of a disruption at that time, even though eventually it was signed. So that seemed to support what you have just said, that a lot of the times we even have business practices that are condoned, some of them in the name of tariffs, that are essentially not in the public interest. that at times are the inordinate interests of some business people. Prof.
Yes, of course, what you just said is an example of state capture. It's an example of what political economists like Claude Ake said a long time ago, that in Nigeria, the major means of production, the major means of making money is access to the state. And so in analyzing Nigerian markets and Nigerian variant or version of capitalism, we must always bear that in mind, that the easiest way to make money is to capture an organ of the state, or is to capture the state as a whole and use it to create money and wealth for yourself, and to protect that wealth under all sorts of corrupt practices and government patronage, right? So that brings us to the point when a president or economists advise on putting tariff, the assumption is that the entrepreneurs or the producers in the country would recognize or will recognize the signals that prices will send. But in Nigeria, the question we need to ask ourselves, do prices actually function as signals for entrepreneurial decisions? And I would say, more often than not, prices do not function as signals for productive entrepreneurial decision. As long as you can get access to the state, as long as you can make money easily, then the whole idea of relying on tariff to signal where the government wants resources to be allocated or local industry to be encouraged is a wrong move, because prices do not actually function as signals for entrepreneurial decision. What functions as signals for entrepreneurial decision is your political connection, right? So that is one thing. The third way to look at the tariffs is that tariff will make sense if it is situated within a context of a serious industrial and national development policy. Therefore, tariff will become an instrument to achieve a certain national goals. But in Nigeria, as long as we don't have consistent national development or industrialization policy, the question we ask ourselves is that, are these tariffs really directed at achieving a particular purpose, or they are just ad hoc measures that the government is putting in place in reaction or in response to one event or the other, or in response to political donations? There are entrepreneurs in Nigeria that routinely during political campaign would donate $10 million to presidential candidates in the hope that they will get certain privileges. So tariffs or any other restrictions are not directed towards national policy. And another thing to understand, that when people impose tariff, right, they say tariffs is going to encourage local production. Tariffs is going to protect local jobs. But the thing about tariff is that while tariff may protect certain jobs, it will also take away jobs from other places, right? If you look at it from a wide economic point of view, anybody that tells you that tariffs straight away will always protect jobs is one-sided view. While it protects jobs in one sector, it may actually take jobs under place. And that is an empirical question that we can study and answer, rather than this knee-jerk reaction that automatically tariff will always help somebody. Now, we come to the fourth factor. The whole point of having tariff is to make the external goods coming in, the imports coming in, expensive, so that indigenous consumers will focus on local alternatives. That is the assumption, is that with the presence of the tariff, the local alternative will now become relatively cheaper. But we forgot that in Nigeria, there is a corruption charge. Because the country is so corrupt and the government officials are so corrupt, that even if we put tariff, by the time we build in the effect of corruption, our prices will almost always be higher than what we'll get from outside, even with the imposition of the tariff. So that if we are going to seriously think about industrialization and using prices as signals to direct resources for the country, we need to take into account the effect of corruption. I was just talking with an entrepreneur a week ago, and she told me the business she wants to go in. She presented kind of on paper how much money she's going to make every 3 months. I just asked her a simple question. Did you build in corruption charge? That by the time you take account of corruption, maybe your own workers stealing your products or the government officials extorting you. Also, if you put all that aside, the business might not be profitable. So when we are talking about tariff, we shouldn't just look at it as a standalone matter. We should look at it in the context of the whole thing. And then finally, the way we should look at the tariff issue is to say, how will the tariff affect our well-being? Because people always say, oh, tariff national. When you are a government official or the president or somebody comes to talk about tariff, I want the average Nigerian to ask a primary question: how will that affect my well-being? Because let me tell you, the current president, President Tinubu,
yes.
I learned something from him through a friend long time ago, and I call it the Tinubu logic of looking at budget. A friend went to Tinubu. I think this was the time of President Goodluck.
Okay.
Or so, and the person was having discussion with Governor or Senator Tinubu. He was already out of the Senate, also. Ashwaju told him that, the budget the president made is very good. And Tinubu told my friend that the budget is not good. Then the friend turned around and asked him, sir, the budget is in the interest of the nation, and therefore it is good. I look at it from a national perspective. Tinubu turned around and told him, am I not a Nigerian? If the budget does not take care of my interests, it's not good. That if it's a national interest, I'm also a Nigerian. I'm a Nigerian national. The budget should take care of my interests. If I don't find where the budget takes care of my interests, it is therefore not a good budget. Now we may argue with that philosophy, but he said something that when government makes policy, we shouldn't be too emotional about it or explain it on ethnic basis, right? How, as an economic individual, how does it benefit you? Because the first axiom of economists is that the individual is a rational being. A rational being means that the person considers their interests and they want to maximize that interest. Given that, we should also apply the same Tinubu logic to President Tinubu when he makes a budget. When he comes out with a policy, we should always ask, how does it benefit me? If he says it's for the nation, we should ask him, wherever you are in Nigeria, it may be in Kafashan, it might be in Port Harcourt, it might be in Ibadan, how does that benefit me? Until we begin to hold our government and their policies to tax and look at it from how it benefits the average Nigerian, then we are not really ready to build an economy that will be there for the flourishing of every Nigerian.
Exactly. Very, very, very excellent point, Prof. And we can go on and on about some of the examples that many of it in the public domain, and some of it that some of us that have also served in government previously have seen. But I also wanted us to now look at what opportunities are provided, that Nigeria can take in this situation now where you have President Trump, basically commencing a trade war, although he has paused it for the most part. But specifically regarding Nigeria, the U.S. government actually said that there are about 25 products that Nigeria has imposed, what they describe as unjustified tariffs, in its relationship with the United States. So I wanted to ask you, Prof, what opportunity do you think exists, if there is, for Nigeria in this new Trump tariff world order? Are there any opportunities at all for us?
Yes, the first opportunity is that we should begin to say because how do we direct our trade to look inwards in Africa, right? So because Africa is a big market, and if we nurture it very well, we can sell to other African countries or buy from other African countries, so that the threat of Trump coming into affecting us will not be realized, right? So how will we create the infrastructure in Nigeria so that Nigeria will become a manufacturing and trade hub, so that we can sell to other African countries and also to other parts of the world? Like I said, if you look at where Nigeria is situated, like in terms of transportation wide, in terms of global transportation, if we become a manufacturing hub, right, we're almost at this in the center of the earth, like between the east and the west, and therefore companies buying from us or producing in Nigeria and distributing will be cheaper than distributing in manufacturing in China and distributing across all the way to America. At least to some extent, where we are on a global basis, we have a lower transportation cost to take product from the point of manufacture to the point of consumption. And so these are the things that we need to do. We need to build that kind of infrastructure. We need to make Nigeria business friendly, that people can come and invest. And we need to invest in our people, because for companies to come and produce in Nigeria, we must have a very efficient and viable workforce. But unfortunately, our workforce is not as developed as how it should be. Unfortunately, our workforce is also corrupt, in the sense that businessmen and women will tell you that it's your workers that will kill your business. Of course, the workers are not acting in isolation. The government is also killing the workers. The government is also stealing from the people. The ruling class is also stealing from people. So until we tackle corruption, corruption is not merely a moral issue. It's an economic issue, and it's a national security issue. But I think that the ruling class is not really ready to industrialize. All what they have been talking about is lip service. I don't think the Nigerian ruling class want to institute a proper market system that will promote economic development. What everyone is interested is how to get to the center or to the state house and loot. So, but yeah, this is a great opportunity. Now, we must also be very careful. Trump did not impose tariff on oil, right? So he may well do that at some point. And so the question is, are we ready if America is not buying Nigerian oil anymore? Have we looked for sources outside the United States to sell our oil? Or do we even have a plan to use the oil internally? Why are we still dependent on exporting oil when we could set up if our economy is growing? I think the amount of oil we are producing, we will consume it for our energy needs in the country. We don't need to export. But that means that we are converting the oil into some kind of products or investment that will then export to the rest of the world to make money. But right now, the way Nigeria is, we're still at the mercy of Trump. As of today, if he stops the importation of oil into petroleum, it's going to affect our budget. It's going to affect us. But this is the time for a very serious government to begin to plan for a change. It is never too late. It is never too late to start. It's never too late for Nigerian government to invite the best of our citizens abroad to come back to harness their power and do something. But unfortunately, I don't see the governments in Nigeria at the state level, at the federal level, really tackling corruption and really focus on industrialization and making everybody believe that they are Nigerians, that we equally matter, not because we are from one ethnic group and therefore you have a preference in getting jobs, in getting contracts, in getting appointments.
Okay, Prof.
So, yes.
Yeah, I mean, but I wanted us to, as we conclude, you are an academic in the United States. There's also been a lot of tension, growing in the United States between the Trump administration and its policies and the academic world. There has been a pushback from the federal government of the United States in terms of the funding of even private universities like Columbia University, and I have observed quite a bit of very weak response from the academia in the United States until last week when Harvard actually stood up to the president and said that, look, you don't tell us what we teach, and we're private universities, you can keep the federal funds. I wanted to ask you, Prof, you are a professor right there, is it that the Americans don't know how to fight? Because one of the things that I noticed is that it seems that Nigerians have more experience with repression and the level of intellectual autonomy, academic autonomy that one would have expected in the USA with these Trump repressive policies. I've not seen it compared to here in Nigeria, where, the academic staff will knock out the government if they come up with any such policies. What's your take? Last question, Prof.
Yeah, but in Nigeria, because it's not that we are better created, we have more fighting force. We've been in a mess and suffering for so long that it has come beyond our nostrils. The water has been. So we've learned to fight just to survive.
Yeah.
It's like in Nigeria those days, a Ajibota child and the normal child that grew up on the street.
Yes.
So the Ajibota child would not know what is happening, but the child that grew up on the street would see a fight coming and get ready for it and to hit the knockout blow.
Punch.
But what has happened to the American system is what the Japanese call the story of the frog. That if you put a frog in water and continuously boil the water, you will keep the temperature will be rising and the frog will be dead. But if you throw him at once to hot water, this frog will jump out. So I think the American capitalist system and the federal funding, even when they are private institutions, have lured the American institution, even the Ivy League universities to go to sleep, and Trump are just working them up. And places like Columbia, my alma mater, I was shocked that they caved in so quickly. And I was happy that Harvard stood up. Yes, Harvard is going to pay a price. They're going to pay a cost, but somebody needed to stand up. And last night I saw a news flash and needed to confirm it that somebody in the White House sent a note that the letter that was sent to Harvard was a mistake. The letter that demanded those things was a mistake. We need to learn more about it to
know exactly what is happening
going forward. So that would mean that by standing up to him, maybe the government is looking for a retreat. That's why they say, the letter was sent out in a mistake. As a mistake.
Thank you.
So there is hope for America. I don't want anybody to give up on the democratic spirit of America.
Thank you.
Americans will stand up and fight. And as the King James Bible always, I like King James translation, it came to pass. Even Trump will come to pass.
Even Trump will come to pass. Well, I mean, thank you so much. I was just, trying to put the word out that if the Americans need help fighting, we are here in Nigeria. We have a lot of experience how to resist bad governance. And to your very last point, there's an Arabian proverb that said that they asked Pharaoh, they said, Pharaoh, what happened to you? You know, why were you? How did you become a tyrant? And Pharaoh responded and said, nobody stopped me. So I am glad that Harvard has stood up. You know, just like Nigerian academics, we always stand up against resistance. Thank you so much, Professor Waribuku, for your contributions, and thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right.